your things. Jessica needs your room, Dad ordered. Years later, they stood in the leasing office of their dream apartment. The manager smiled. Let me get the owner. I walked in. Hello, Mom. I still remember the exact time. 7:42 a.m. on my 18th birthday. No cake, no candles, just Dad standing in my doorway with a roll of garbage bags. Jessica had been begging for a dance studio for months. My bedroom had the best natural light. The hardwood floors were perfect for practicing. And me? I was just the older daughter who got decent grades and never caused problems. Mom didn't even help me pack. She was too busy measuring my walls for mirrors. I asked where I was supposed to go. Dad shrugged and said the garage had a futon. I was an adult now. I could figure it out. An adult. Right. An adult working 22 hours a week at a sandwich shop while taking 17 credits. An adult whose college savings had been drained 2 years earlier to send Jessica to a summer intensive in New York. That first night in the garage, I could hear them through the walls. Mom was praising Jessica's arabesque. Dad was talking about hiring a private choreographer. The furnace kicked on every 40 minutes and shook the whole room. I lasted 3 weeks out there before I called my grandmother. She picked up on the second ring, didn't even let me finish explaining. Just said, I'll have the guest room ready by tonight. Grandma Ruth was my grandfather's second wife. She'd married him late in his life after he'd already built his property management company from nothing. When he passed, she inherited everything. 12 residential buildings, a small commercial plaza, and a whole lot of knowledge about how real estate actually worked. She saw something in me that my parents never bothered to look for. That first year, I answered phones in her leasing office while finishing my business degree. She paid me $12 an hour and let me sit in on every meeting, every negotiation, every tenant dispute. By year 2, I was managing her smallest building, 46 units. I learned how to fix a leaking faucet at 2 a.m., how to spot a pay stub, how to talk down an angry resident without losing my composure. Year 3, Grandma got sick, pancreatic cancer. She called me into her office and handed me a folder. Inside was the deed to her entire portfolio. I'm leaving it to you, she said. Not because you're family, because you actually earned it. She passed 8 weeks later. At 23, I inherited a $4.2 million real estate portfolio. I made mistakes that first year and lost about $60,000 learning the hard way, but I kept going. By 25, I'd added 3 more buildings. By 28, I'd expanded into commercial properties. Last year, I broke ground on The Ruth, a luxury apartment complex named after the only person who ever believed in me. I hadn't spoken to my parents in almost 9 years, hadn't seen Jessica since she blocked me on Facebook after I missed her wedding. They didn't invite me. I found out through a cousin. So when my property manager called me last Tuesday and said a couple named Walker was interested in the penthouse unit, I didn't think anything of it. Then she sent me their application. I stared at my father's signature, then looked at their address. They'd sold the house years ago. Jessica's dance career was over after a knee injury. She taught preschool now. My parents had burned through their savings chasing her dream. Now they wanted to live in my building. I had my manager schedule an in-person interview. No explanation. That Friday, I watched through the glass. Dad looked older. Mom wore a dress I recognized. They filled out the paperwork in silence. No wedding rings. I noted it for later. My manager knocked on my door. They're ready for you. I straightened my blazer, checked my reflection. The girl from the garage was gone. In her place was someone they'd never bothered to imagine I could become. I walked into that leasing office and watched my mother's face cycle through confusion, recognition, and something that looked almost like fear. Hello, Mom. Dad stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. Emma, you work here? I sat down across from them, took my time opening their file. I don't work here, I said. I own here. This building, the 3 next to it. About $47 million in property across the city. Mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I slid their application back across the table. Your income is about 30% below our minimum requirement. Your credit took a hit from some medical bills last year, and your references were interesting. Dad's lawyer voice kicked in. Now wait just a minute. The garage apartment on 5th Street has an opening, I continued. It's not luxury, but it's clean. Good natural light. Hardwood floors. I watched that land. Watched them both realize exactly what I was saying. Mom started crying. Emma, we never meant the application deadline is Friday. I stood up. I'll have my assistant show you out. I was halfway to the door when Dad called my name. What happened to you? He asked. I turned around, looked at the 2 people who'd thrown me away like I was nothing. I figured it out, I said, just like you told me to.